Ismail is our local representative to Dresden, as I will not be talking today. Ismail, thank you for being with us today, and I think your talk follows on really nicely from some of the action observation talk that we've had this morning. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Marla, for the introduction. And yeah, my talk is not going to be focusing on any kind of first-hand experimental research because I don't have, as Marla said also at the beginning of today, we are also trying to create some dance-related research. There's a company called Carousel Dancing. It's a German company. We are still in contact, but they are working on a product which provides dancing in separate locations in the virtual reality environment. But it's a really complex problem, and there's a delay issue, and there is like a calibration issue as well. For now, when you want to dance in virtual reality environment, all the body parts are embedded each other. But we are still in contact. When they improve their product a little bit, I think we are going to create like a collaboration. And with Marla's contribution as well, we are planning on doing some experiment, and maybe next year these results will be available for sharing. But for today, my talk is going to be really easily digestible and really general things I am sure everybody already knows in the room. And I will try to briefly summarize what human nervous system is doing, how we are controlling, our body is controlling the purposeful movement, and how that sensorimotor synchronization is happening, and what's dance moment therapy, and how it is used to solve some psychiatric issues, actually. I don't have first-hand research, but during my PhD, we have written a book chapter with my supervisor, and where we are just briefly summarize human nervous system. It consists of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, and central nervous system is just brain and spinal cord, and peripheral nervous system actually somatosensory system and motor system. And our somatosensory system is collecting a lot of information from around the world we are living in, and also from our inner body. There's a lot of information coming to our central nervous system. And there are some specific sensations, which is some body parts are specific to some kind of stimuli, such as visual, taste, olfaction, auditory. But the general sensations can be felt any parts of the body, such as skin. We have a lot of mechanoreceptors beneath our skin, and Ruffini, Pagini, Merkel organs. They are providing a lot of information related to features of the subjects we are touching, actually. Also, it could be like temperature, also pain receptors. We have a lot of receptors beneath our skin. And we have proprioception, which is really amazing system. And even if sometimes the visual information and some other type of information is lacking, actually our body knows where our extremities are locating. Such a really classical example, even if I close my eyes and try to just tap my fingers, I am able to do that. So there are a lot of joint receptors are providing information to the central nervous system, and my body actually knows where are my extremities. And after collecting a lot of information, our nervous system is actually making some decisions based on the current knowledge. And based on these evaluation, we are creating a response, and that response is sent to the effector organs. Mostly they are, of course, muscles, and also some other inner body organs. And our motor system is sending those commands actually to the effector organs. When it is like a voluntary movement, somatic motor system is responsible, but also there is like autonomous system, and sympathetic and parasympathetic system are regulating the body responses when we are under stress or we are just relaxed. So actually, the big umbrella, the big picture is something like that. Mainly three things are done by our nervous system: collecting information, use that information, and creating a response, mostly resulting in a movement. But what kind of movement? We have different types of movement and reflex movements, automatic behaviors, and voluntary movements. Reflex movements are actually is done like just in the spinal cord. Sometimes we don't have time to make the evaluation to have the information in upper levels in motor context. So of course, spinal reflexes are not reaching to the conscious level. And the response is just creating in the spinal cord and sent to the effector organs, to the muscles immediately. A really typical example is like a patellar tendon reflex. Blinking of an eye also is a reflex, and we have a lot of different reflexes, such as withdrawal reflex, which is really useful, and thanks God we have something like this. So just imagine you are walking barefoot on the beach, and there is something tiny, and just you are stepping on it. So what the nervous system is doing, it sends a lot of contraction signals to the opposite extremity, and you are just contracting other extremity, and you are releasing the load. And yeah, it is all the aim is to protect your body actually. Again, like chewing something, if there's something such a really hard thing, and you just stop immediately chewing because this is also a kind of reflex. And the idea is, again, to protect your body. And we also have voluntary movements, and voluntary movements are purposeful movements, like hitting a tennis ball and playing an instrument, kicking a soccer ball. These kind of movements are actually in our conscious level. So again, let's think on hitting a tennis ball. I see that a ball is approaching to me from my opponent. So I need to use that visual information. So I need to adjust my body. I need to have like a roughly estimation of which part of the court that ball is going to land. And I need to do a lot of small steps. I need to open my racket, and I need to accelerate my torso. There's like a torso rotation, and I need to transfer that energy through rocket to the ball. But most of these things are controlled by the cerebellum, and we can call them automatic behaviors, because most of them, they are not going to the conscious level. Actually, what player is focusing on the strategy, on the opponent, and maybe like the target place he intends to send to the ball. But some other small steps are controlled by other sub-levels of the nervous system, such as cerebellum and some other body parts. And automatic behaviors are something like that. And the topic of today, actually, how we are synchronizing with an external rhythm, and it's called sensorimotor synchronization. And it involves like a coordination of sensor input and motor output. And there's like a timing mechanism to align our movement with an external rhythm or beat. And actually, as humans, we are really sensitive to external rhythms. I think it starts with while we are in our before even birth. The very first thing, I think, our mother's heartbeat we are hearing, and we are somehow that rhythmic sound is making us relax. But of course, we are not the only creatures which is susceptible to rhythm, external rhythm. Also, some other creatures, animals, are susceptible, are really adjustable with the rhythm, external rhythms. And there's even a movie recently, last week, I was in the cinema. Its name is Dune, and it is like a different planet in the desert. There are really big worms, and they are also really susceptible to rhythmic movements, and you shouldn't walk. Even just walking like this on the desert, they know where you are, and they come and they eat you. So people are living in that planet just improved a different type of walking style, so they are not creating rhythmic movement. And It is just an example, but in real life examples, there are a lot of things we are just synchronized with an external rhythm, such as clapping to a beat while we are listening to music. We can even tap our feet and just make like a connection with the music we are listening actually. Also playing a musical instrument, it's also like synchronizing yourself with an external rhythm, and dancing, obviously. We are synchronizing our bodies with dance movements. And marching in step, actually, this is maybe you can think on like in the army, marching in a coherence, but I am a marathon runner and I do a lot of running almost every day. And especially if you are running with a group, and especially during interval runnings, actually, in which you are pushing the button a little bit, and you surprisingly see that you are actually synchronizing with other people. So you are stepping at the same time, and there's like a really rhythmic sound, like prop, 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 prop. And yeah, just unconsciously, this synchronization is happening because you are not talking to your running mates and let's hit our feet together. It's just happening. It's just happening automatically, and it is something really interesting. And there are also a lot of synchronized sports such as swimming, and also in sports itself, there are a lot of coordinating elements. And actually, to be able to adjust in many sports, you need to practice a lot of coordination drills. Tennis is one of them. For example, you need to be able to adjust that small side steps. You need to perform a lot of coordination drills. And after that, you are a good player, actually. And that sensorimotor synchronization, there are different brain parts responsible for that synchronization. Basal ganglia is really critical for timing and coordination of movements, and any dysfunction can lead to a lot of problems related to movement in basal ganglia, and Parkinson's disease is one of them, for example. Participants are really having difficulties to coordinate their movements. I don't know if you have confront or made research related with Parkinson people, but a few years ago, I had the chance to analyze some movement data for Parkinson disease, Parkinson patients. And they are, for example, shaking a lot, especially their hands. And there's another issue they are facing, like initiation of gait is a little bit difficult and problematic for them. So there's a term called phrasing of gait. So when they are able to start, somehow they just walk, but when they stop and wanted to make like a U-turn, generally they just freeze, and step by step they are turning back and then again trying to start walking. So the problem is mainly in basal ganglia. And cerebellum, as I told previously, is really, really important. And most of the sports-related movements and automatic behaviors, such as running, walking, are controlled by the cerebellum. And it receives a lot of sensory information from the proprioceptive system. And that information is not going to conscious level. And cerebellum is actually always controlling. It is okay with the desired movement, and if it is not, cerebellum is making some adjustments, real tuning up of the movement. It could be, I mean, even shooting in basketball or hitting forehand, backhand in tennis. If the output is not desired, the cerebellum is making some adjustments. And there are also some other brain parts: primary motor cortex, supplementary motor area, and promoter cortex. And these areas are really well mapped, actually. And especially for voluntary motor commands, they are receiving inputs from various different cortical and subcortical areas. And especially supplementary motor area is responsible for coordinating double hand movements. So a lot of skills, not only sportive skills, also dance, a lot of coordination related movements are controlled by these brain areas. And when it comes to rhythmic movement, of course, the auditory cortex is really, really important because we need to hear that rhythm and timing cues coming from outside. And there's like a really strong coordination between auditory cortex and some other brain areas. And lastly, thalamus is really, really important for putting the movements in a sequence. So there's a lot of information coming from sensory systems and from auditory cortex, some other brain parts, and thalamus is putting everything in a sequence, and it is really, really important for application as well. And when it comes to sensorimotor synchronization, actually there are a lot of research focusing on different parts of the issue. There are a lot of really big body of literature related to finger tapping studies, and somehow there's like an auto rhythm, and finger tapping is like a really big indicator, and I think it's a bit easy to study as well. And a lot of dance and music performance studies, and also non-human animal synchronization studies are done. And when it comes to dance, especially, there is like an interpersonal synchronization. And also when it comes to neuroscience of the sensorimotor synchronization, the motor neurons, mirror neurons are studied a lot. And dance movement therapy, lastly, it's a nice issue, and it is like a form of expressive therapy that utilize movement and dance to support many psychological disorders, psychiatric disorders. It could be emotional, cognitive, social, and physical, even physical problems. And actually, it's based on the principle that movement and emotions are somehow interconnected. So we are like creatures, not just one side. We have a physical side, also a psychological side, and social side. So, for example, this photo at the right, it could be like really professional dancers creating such really difficult movement patterns, which is very difficult for normal people to create. But even such a really simple connection and just sitting together and touching each other, it creates like a really different kind of connection and non-verbal communication, actually. And these are actually some other elements of the dance movement therapy. So there is like a body awareness component for the dance movement therapy. Also, a lot of people are focusing on mental consciousness nowadays, and it is also related to this. And it encourages people to become more aware about their bodily sensations, movements, and postures. And they are eager to create some unconscious patterns and tensions, and these are leading to them to increase their self-awareness and self-expression. There's also emotional expression part, and sometimes emotions are a little bit difficult to verbalize. So participants are encouraged to express a wide range of emotions through a movement, and they are actually allowing emotional processing. So it is really, really important for people to express their emotion when they are having some kind of psychiatric problems. So maybe it is some people it's way easier and way better to express their emotions, not with words, but with some body movements. And the idea is in dance movement therapy is integrating body and mind, and there's like a connection between body and mind. And by engaging movement, we can create like a cognitive, emotional, and physical aspects of our experiences, and it's going to promote like a holistic well-being. Also, nonverbal communication is really important when it comes to social interactions, and people receiving dance movement therapy can convey actually meaning and communicate feelings without the need of words. So dance movement therapy provides a platform for nonverbal communication, and allowing people to connect with others on a deeper level, and they are going to feel really connected by doing that. And of course, lastly, these kind of people are a little bit depressed. Actually, depression is one of the very big areas are studied, and people are receiving dance movement therapy. So they are just engaging creative and spontaneous movement explorations, and they are fostering their sense of playfulness, imagination, and experimentation, which is really, really good for social relaxation. And this creative process can lead them to new insights, problem-solving skills, and personal growth. And actually, the aim of dance movement therapy is creating like physical well-being in individuals with physical, medical, and neurological illnesses. And generally, people from experiencing depression, schizophrenia, autism are the issue of the dance movement therapy. And as a conclusion, there is also a body of literature showing that dance movement therapy might reduce the psychiatric symptoms, particularly in mood disorders. And it has a really clear potential as a treatment tool for a range of conditions and symptoms. But it is worth to emphasize that there's not like a solid one type of dance movement therapy type. It is really depend on the people who is receiving dance movement therapy, what is their aim to receiving that, what issues they need to solve. So there's such a really, there should be like a really good communication before the therapy between therapist and patient. And that's why it is called maybe something like that, dance movement therapy. They need to create before the interaction, the aim, and after that, especially in mood disorders, dance movement therapy is creating such a really good symptoms release. And yeah, it is like this, really, really short, really, really general, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thanks, Ismail. I want to thank him primarily for helping us all just have a sort of 101 of sensorimotor synchronization. This will be particularly helpful. So just as a reminder to everybody, most, if not all, your videos will be added to our Social Bridges playlist for the event. And I can tell you that there have been people watching this from all around the world of all ages. And a talk like yours, Ismail, really just sets the scene for those people who are less familiar, but also was quite thought-provoking even for people who have been doing this for a while. And I've been doing finger tapping studies for too long. But this idea of voluntary versus involuntary entrainment seems so critical. I was thinking just of Felix's talk about the bounce. Is that because it is a more automatic behavior that we are really attuned to it or not attuned to it, as the case may be? So I think just even things like that, just breaking things down into movements that are either more complex or simple, as we heard from Emily today, or voluntary versus involuntary, as we've heard from Ismail. I think when we're doing these sort of gargantuan tasks of trying to capture artistic movements, we do sometimes have to break down to the sort of component parts of the motor task. And I think people like you who do this for a living obviously do that very well. So thank you very much for setting the scene. I don't know if there are any questions in the room. Marike, go ahead, and then Peter, you can go next.
The usual suspects.
Always.
Sorry, but fascinating talk. And I don't know very much about dance movement therapy, so this was really very helpful and interesting. And I was kind of curious, do you know anything about the relative evidence of the effectiveness of dance movement therapy versus, say, other forms of care for depression? Because I'm actually also doing a lot of research on depression, so I'm super curious.
Yeah, thank you for the question. As I told you from the very beginning, I do not have first-hand research, but while going deep into literature, I have came across a lot of interventional studies comparing the effect of dance movement therapy with some control groups. And there's a really recent systematic review as well. They just deeply analyzed 15 studies. And the participant groups were experiencing mainly depression and schizophrenia. So they have reported a lot of good effects of dance movement therapy, decreasing the symptoms of the issue, especially it is such a really good for depression, I guess, because it is not only being active by yourself. So because it is like in a group, you are interacting with other people. So it is also like a social release, I guess. So yeah, if you are interested in it, maybe I can send you those systematic reviews.
That'd be amazing.
Or
maybe
we
it's in the
can
chat.
write another one together, maybe.
Yeah, also cool.
Yeah, if you could add that to the YouTube live stream chat, I'm sure there are many people, including myself, who would love to have that. That would be great. And this is also just a reminder that we'll be hearing a lot more about dance movement therapy tomorrow. So you again have set the stage very nicely for that. Peter, you had a question.
Do we have time?
We have no time.
Okay, it was nice to see the list of reasons why dance movement therapy might work. And I was just thinking that there are other activities, let's say yoga or martial arts or fencing, that where all of them or almost all of them seem to also be the case. So do you think they would work the same, or is there something different with dancing? And if there is something different with dancing, what is that?
Again, I think within dancing, you are also interacting with other people, and we humans are also creatures, social creatures, and we really need that. So another, such as yoga, martial arts, you are still using your body awareness is increasing, and you are actually more aware of your capabilities, your own mood actually is changing. You are doing that by yourself. But most of the time you need to share it with some other people. So dance is giving that opportunity to us. And another thing, when it comes to therapy, actually, group therapy is also proven a lot of benefits because you are with people experiencing the same thing with you. So you are feel more understood, more welcomed, and you are creating another base and communication and connection level. I think that's the key.
As a musician, can I just add something? I think it's a lot about the music. Yeah, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, and expressivity.
Mm.
You said it so nicely. Can you actually see me?
Can you hear and see?
I can't.
Yeah, the owl is looking at you. The owl is
Okay,
looking
cool. So, there's a lot of the expressivity that seems to be the important treatment factor in dance movement therapy. I've been told. I don't have experience in this, but for example, there's a huge scoping review with Sabine Koch and her team looking at the mechanisms of change that happen when we go through dance movement therapy. How do you say, like course, and the expressive factors. So important. You said at the beginning, when we have something, we need to express it. And I think it's interesting if we maybe go to another arm. There's a very nice research trajectory in expressive writing with James Pennebaker. There are some paradigms there that I'm just hoping someone would apply into dance, because we're working on dance here. So let's share also paradigms that are out there. Like fascinating work where people are asked to just write what they feel for 15, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. And then they look at pre and post markers of immune response, more immune markers. Then they do something that's called a punch biopsy, which they basically punch people like a little bit, a very small problem with the skin, and they have them do expressive writing or a different type of writing. And then after some weeks, they are healed much better, those that have done the expressive writing. Hey, what's that? Another study showed that if you have people vaccinated, but before they had the vaccination, they did expressive writing for a week, and then they have more antibodies after 6 months than those who did a different type of writing. Or people undergoing surgery, that if they do expressive writing before, they have a quicker healing. So fascinating work. There are some systematic reviews and meta-analysis in that particular field of expressive writing that show, hey, it's not a huge effect and it's not always there. So there's still a lot that we need to have a look at, but I think we should try that with dance as well, because you mentioned yoga and martial arts and everything, and it's just sports. We're all moving our body, but in yoga, we're taught. Yeah, let me sit. But in yoga, we're taught to let go of our emotions. In martial arts, we're trying to trick our opponents, as in sports. In dance, we take them and we express them. It's different. It is very different. And yeah, so that was what I wanted to say. And I just want also to say thank you for that. Yeah, powerhouse of a talk, just setting the stage of the mechanisms so that we don't forget that there are these mechanisms we should look for. I study expressive perception myself, and I'm always like, what's the mechanism of the brain? So thank you for doing that, and I hope we can have some chats.
Yeah, so on that note, I just want to thank everybody for a great first session. Thank you, Ismail, one more time.